Hi, I'm Kolby King with 330 Ministries, and today I'm going to teach you the cut and restored rope trick. But first, I want you to see it in action, so here we go. Today, we're going to use this rope to teach us a very important truth from God's Word. And so I want you to watch real close. First, we need to kind of find the middle part, and I'm going to measure it just a little to make sure I'm at least close to being somewhat in the middle. And see, my bottom lengths are about the same, and my ends are pretty close to it. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to cut, and I want you to see real close. I'm going to cut this rope right there, and now I'm going to tie those two parts together, those two ends together. And let me get them tied here pretty tight because I want to make sure my rope doesn't fall in half. And so let me just kind of pull that a little tighter right there. Perfect. Now, what I have, I've got a rope and I've got a knot in the middle of the rope. Now I want you to picture that this is kind of like us and God. You see, picture that God is on this side over here and God is perfect. In other words, God has never done anything wrong and God never will do anything wrong. Now I want you to picture that we're on this side over here. And the reason we're on the opposite side, God is perfect, but we are not perfect. We've all done wrong things. And this knot right in the middle, this knot represents all of those wrong things that we've done. You see, our sin, the wrong things we've done, our sin, it separates us from God. So I want you to picture this knot like every wrong thing that you've ever done in your entire life. God is perfect on this side. We are not perfect on that side. And I want you to know that this is the reason that Jesus came and He died and He rose again. And He did all of that to make a way to remove your sin. And so watch real close. Okay, if this knot is separating the two ends, if our sin is separating us from God, Jesus came, and when He died, what Jesus did is He paid the punishment. He took the price. He paid the price, took the punishment for the wrong things we would do. And when He died and He rose again, Jesus made a way to forgive us of our sin. He made a way to remove the sin that was separating us and God. And I don't know where you are in your relationship with God, and I don't know what you believe, but I want you to know this. Jesus Christ changed my life. And I know He's real because of the difference He made in my life. And I know He's real because He lives in my life. And regardless of what you believe, I want you to know everything you've ever wanted in life is only found in one place, and it's in Jesus Christ. And the life you're looking for, you're only going to find when you come and surrender everything in your life to Him. That's when you'll find real life. Now that you've seen this illusion in action, and I want to remind you, the illusion is not really about accomplishing the trick right. Now, you always want to practice, and you always want to make sure you're ready to do it, and to do it to the best of your ability, but it's more about making the point. In other words, you want to make sure people understand what you're saying. And now, a lot of people call me an illusionist, and a lot of times kids will come up and say, you know, do you do magic tricks, or are you a magician? And and I always explain to them, there's no magic to any of this. All of these are just tricks. But I'm a minister. Jesus changed my life, and I'm a preacher, and this just gives me an object that people look at while I get to tell them about Jesus. And it is absolutely fun. And I'm going to teach this to you because it's a great way for you to present the gospel just using a piece of rope. Now, this is called magician's rope, and we have it on our website, but it's easy to find many places. It is a little bit thicker. It's not quite like what you'd go to buy a clothesline or something like that. It's really a nice, good, sturdy rope. Now, the way this trick works is you take it. Now, notice I was using two fingers like this right here, and I'm going to get a little closer because I want you to see it. I'm using two fingers right in the middle, and a lot of people don't realize that when I'm separating it, I'm using those two fingers, and the reason I do that is because I'm going to use these in a minute, and I have this behind my hand. Now I'm going to give you a different view, because when I bring up my two fingers like this, what I do is I come in and I grab lower on the rope and I pull up. And so you're going to see the behind picture in a minute. What I've done is here's the end of the rope right here. And you see I'm holding and I've pulled up. And so when I loop this, what I have, what it looks like, is I have one end here and one end here. And these two look the same. Now what you can see is what I'm going to cut. If you notice, it comes right through here. So when I cut this, all I'm going to do is tie those two ends together. All right, now you see that configuration there? I'm going to do it again so that you can see it up close, because I know even while I'm doing it, it's hard to do it without getting my hands in the way. And so let's try it again. Okay, you're going to take it in the middle, you're going to bring it up. When you bring it up, now I'm opening my hand so you can see it, you're going to grab that rope and you're going to pull that rope up. And so at this point, do you see what I have right here? I've got the end and it comes underneath and loops up, and then I'm going to bring this end around, and so you end up with this right here. And let me hold it where you can see it real well. And then you're going to take your scissors, and when you take your scissors, you're going to cut that loop. Now from their perspective, they see these parts hanging down and they're about the same, and they see the two ends and they see that loop sticking up, and they're just assuming, since you pulled it up, that that's the middle. And so I'm going to take my scissors right here, and when I cut it, now what you see right here, it loops under. I'm going to cut it right there. So when I tie that knot, actually all I'm doing is I'm tying this little bitty end that I cut off right here. I'm just tying this end together. And so here I'm going to turn it where you can see it real well. So I'm going to tie that end together. And I do this, I'm concealing it with my hand when I do it in front of them. And your knot would actually be a little bit longer on the ends if you use a longer rope. So now I've tied a knot. It looks like that knot's in the middle. But you and I, we know that all I did was snip off the end of this rope, and because it was looped, I tied it in a knot. And so what I have really is I have a little short knot that I cut off, or a short rope that I've simply tied around the middle. So this knot, it can slide this way, it can slide that way, it just slips right off. And so as I'm talking about how Jesus removes our sin, I'm going to take my hand, and I like to take my hand and I hold it like this, and I like to put my hand right there and bring it up, or sometimes I'll call up a volunteer and I'll do this right next to them, and I'll have them hold my scissors and I'll let them cut that knot, and they don't even see what I'm doing because my hand conceals it from them too. And I'll tie it, and then I'll have them hold this, and I'll tell them, now don't pull on the ends because I don't want you to, I don't want it to come apart. And so I give it to them, and they're going to hold it for me. And then a lot of times I'll reach down, and as I'm talking, I'll just very discreetly reach in my pocket, and I'll put on a fake thumb. And that fake thumb inside is a red silk. And so as I'm talking, what I can do is take that fake thumb, and I can produce from my hand a silk, because the thumb comes off in your hand, and I don't have one to demonstrate for you. It's very easy. The thumb comes off in your hand, and so you pull the silk out, and when you pull it out, the thumb is still in this hand, so you pull that silk out and you put it in this hand. So now it looks like you're holding that silk, but you're hiding that fake thumb. And then you take that silk and you wrap it around and explain that silk, that red, represents how Jesus bled, how he died and rose again. And you can take that and you can wrap it around that knot, and now you have this red hanging over, and talk about how Jesus took the punishment for our sins, and then you can pull that knot off. And a lot of times when I pull the knot off, if you notice what I did a minute ago, I pulled it off, and as soon as I pulled it off, I immediately transferred the rope into that hand. The same thing of what I was talking about the thumb, is I'm holding the rope, but actually what I'm doing is I'm concealing that I have that knot in my hand. Now, there's a lot of people, and they'll figure out, they'll go, oh, wait a minute, hold on. The knot didn't just disappear. Ah, the knot's in your hand. And if you want to, it's all right to, pull that knot off. And sometimes I've pulled it off, and I've held it in my hand and talked about how Jesus forgives us. And then I'll say, I'm going to show you part of the trick. Again, you remember, my point here, it's not to be the greatest illusionist in the world. Now, I want to be good at it, but I want to make the point. I want them to understand what this is about. And so I pull it off, and I'll say, I'm going to show you something. Look, I didn't really make that disappear. I just pulled it off. And then I'll explain to them that God doesn't just hide our sin. No, God doesn't hide our sin. What God does is he makes our sin totally disappear. Now, I typically don't make it disappear. You can do that in front of them. Many times what I'll do instead is I'll hold that knot, and what I'll tell them is when Jesus forgives our sin, he throws it as far as the east from the west. And I'll take that knot, and we'll see how far I can throw it. And however far I can throw it, I can talk about, there was an end to that. It only went so far. But God's forgiveness, the east to the west, you go and you go. You never come to the end of that. In other words, it's unending. God's forgiveness is that great and that powerful. So just with a simple rope, some scissors, you can make an incredible illustration. And the supplies are on our website, and I want to encourage you to make the most of every opportunity to use the things around you every day and to use the tools that you have to share Jesus.